let's continue.
I want to show you what we're doing with theory of constraints. Here's our framework. Ladies and gentlemen, here's our framework. What's our framework got to do with theory of constraints? Remember, you want to make customers happy, just say don't make them expect too much. Okay? Under promise, over deliver. Okay? Now, the first half of today's lecture probably focus a little bit more on that. What we're doing now is focusing a little bit more on, okay, maybe we can't change the expectations. Maybe we have to change the activity bottlenecks. How do we do that? Well, there's some exercises we'll go through in the coming 15, 20 minutes, the rest of the lecture, that will help us understand what we mean by bottlenecks. Think about it. I just want you to think about bottlenecks in terms of the following. You're making a product and one of the machines is the bottleneck, okay? The suppliers, they supply materials, you've got ample materials, but this machine is slowing you down. What are your different options? Often, your options are two. You either increase the capacity of that machine, that's bottleneck, or you outsource. You outsource. So you go to your friendly neighbour, this happens in China quite often, and say, oh look, can you help transform these raw materials into this product for me? And send back the units, and then we'll ship them all together to the customer, and our customer will not know the difference. Okay, so outsourcing happens a lot. Sometimes the customer knows about it, sometimes the customer does not know. Okay, so the calculations we're about to do are focused on either of those two options. Okay, so what are the, it's basically a make or buy decision associated with increasing capacity, or it may be a similar make or buy decision associated with do we outsource or not. That's what we're going to do now. Let's have a look at some of those calculations. So if we move through, here's an example. We have a bottleneck operation. Mayfield Corporation manufactures filing cabinets. How many of you have got a filing cabinet at home? Oh, okay, all right. I'll have to change the example next year. All right, so they have a machining and they have finishing. So which of those two processes do you think there is a bottleneck? Hands up for machining. Hands up for finishing. Hands up for machining, hands up for finishing. Okay, finishing is definitely a bottleneck. Finishing only has capacity of 80,000 units. Notice that? It's not about the cost of operating, it's about the capacity that each process has. So machining could make 100,000 units, 80,000 go through and 20,000 are waiting to go through finishing for that particular point in time. You see? So that's a bottleneck. Okay? But that doesn't matter if you didn't promise the customer 100,000, you promised them 80,000, then it doesn't matter, right? So we're assuming that this bottleneck matters to customers. All right? So the bottleneck, and what is the throughput contribution per unit? We're really focusing on $32 is the relevant cost. Ladies and gentlemen, you know in Management Accounting 1, what is the relevant cost? It's a future cost. It changes. It is different among alternatives. That's your relevant cost, right? Forget about that. In theory of constraints, the only relevant costs are raw materials costs only. Why? Because we're making a decision in, what was that? We're making a decision in a very short time frame. We're talking about days, we're talking about weeks, we're talking about getting something through the organisation. Materials costs are the main bottleneck, or the main relevant costs in determining, do we outsource, do we get another machine? Okay? Do we profit by outsourcing and getting that 20,000 through? Or should we get another machine to push it through even faster? Do it one way, do it another way. What's relevant? It's the raw materials costs that is sitting in your organisation. Okay, that is what the relevant costs are. So, having said that, a new machine may cost $30,000 and increase throughput by 1,000 units. So what is the benefit? Well, the benefit is the contribution times 1,000, which is 40,000. What's the incremental cost of the machine? 30,000. So what's the net benefit? 10,000. Should we do it? Put your hands up if we should do this. Yes, we should. Okay, everything else being equal, all the assumptions being equal, all the assumptions that there's no other information, no other uncertainties, then you should go ahead and invest in this machine. Okay? Very similar to your Management Accounting 1 type question, although the only difference here is the relevant costs are raw materials. Okay? Not labour, not overhead. It's not fixed or variable, it's nothing to do with that. That was your Management Accounting 1 concept. Okay? Here, it's just getting stuff through the factory. Getting stuff through the factory. How do we get those materials through the factory? So, the relevant costs are raw materials. Let's have a look at an outsourcing. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, one way of dealing with a bottleneck is, let's outsource. Let's get our friend down the road to help make this whatever we need to make, and then the customer will not know the difference. Quite easy done. Happens often. So, an outside contractor offers to do the finishing operation for 12,000 units at $10 a unit, even though it's double the $5 per unit that it costs you. Are you still going to do it? Can you benefit? What's the calculation? Should we do it or not? Hands up. Should we outsource? Hands up, we should not outsource. Why? Hands up if we should outsource.
Because if outsource, it costs more. The cost is double.
That's the cost side. But our objective function is, are profits increased or not? Are profits increased if we outsource? Yes? Okay, so that's our objective function. Okay, so let's work with that, shall we? Okay, let's, so here's the question. We can make 12,000 more, so there's our throughput contribution. Here's the extra cost. You're right, it costs $60,000 more than what we should make it for. It's not fair, but that's tough. That's all you can get from your outsourcing manufacturer. The benefit of contracting is $360,000, so then you should do it. So the other thing you need to keep in mind for the exam, ladies and gentlemen, when you are preparing for these questions, there might be a simple question about, are there any other considerations? Are there any other considerations? Any? Can you think of any? Quality, yes, you've got to check the quality of the outsourcing. Delivery time, can the outsourcer get it back to you in time? Anything else? This is very good. We're talking about the qualitative aspects of the exam question here. The qualitative aspects. Okay? Qualitative. What else? What about reputation? What if you found out that you've outsourced, you didn't tell your customer? It may affect your reputation. Okay? Okay, you never know when you might be found out. So in some products it doesn't matter, for others it may matter. It may matter, maybe you're building your brand on thorough, dependable service and full control over the quality. So your outsourced supplier gives you the quality, you check everything's all right, but in the customer's eyes, it's not full control. Okay, so very good. On the quantitative, the qualitative aspects. All right, so what about another offer? Hunt Corporation offers to machine the 4,000 units, half the $8 per unit it costs Mayfield to do the machining. So should Mayfield accept Hunt's offer? Hands up if you should accept the offer. Hello? Hands up, should not accept. Why? Why?
The cost of machining per unit are lower.
Because the machining what?
The cost of machining are lower.
Wait a minute. No. Hunt Operations is making a great offer. We can do it for half. It costs you. Give it to us, we do it for you.
Oh, it's
only
irrelevant.
machine 4,000 units.
Pardon?
Only 4,000.
Yes,
It doesn't matter, but what is the relevant cost in this case? Think about it. What is your bottleneck activity? Finishing or machining? Finishing or machining? What is your bottleneck? So someone offers you to do something that you already have ample resources to do. So are you going to save money? Let me repeat. Someone is offering to do machining for you, but you have plenty of machining capacity, and they're going to charge you. So does that benefit you? Yes or no? No. So you shouldn't do it. Okay? So watch out for the trick questions. This is a trick question because the machining is not your bottleneck. The machining is not your bottleneck. The total cost will actually be greater. The $8 per unit, it's costing you $8 per unit. If they do the machining for you, you're still going to have to pay $8 per unit. It's a fixed cost. So therefore your actual costs are greater, you should not accept. And the big point is that machining is not a bottleneck operation. So let's just finish today's lecture. I just want to remind you, today focused a lot on a couple of calculations, but the framework was about, how do we manage customer expectations? And we gave examples of waiting time in the bank. Great, okay, how do we manage that and what should we do? The other side was, maybe we don't have any control over customer expectations. Maybe it's something like the smartphone industry. You just got to deliver product after product within 7 months or less, otherwise you're not going to compete. So therefore it becomes a point of managing your bottleneck operations. You with me? There's only two things you can do. Manage customer expectations about how much time it takes to deliver something, or you improve the time it takes to deliver. You do one or the other. Okay? So all of the exercises you learned today are about those two dilemmas facing organisations, and they come under the rubric of time-based competition. Learning outcome 8 are the following, okay? Recognise the bottleneck operation. Identify it by identifying operations with large quantities of inventory waiting to be worked on. If you see lots of inventory before a machine, you can see that the machine may be slowing down the throughput, okay? Keep the bottleneck operation busy. Maybe keep it working 24 hours a day. The other machines only have to work 12 hours or 18 hours a day. And take actions to increase the efficiency or capacity. So they're the general steps that you would do operationally in the organisation. And then there's other things that you can do to do that. You can also outsource or shift processes away from that bottleneck operation, or manage the demand side. That is, don't promise too much to the customer. Okay. So there's a summary of the last 2 weeks. what we covered. We've covered so many learning objectives. But ladies and gentlemen, this really brings together what the balanced scorecard was about. The balanced scorecard is about getting you to think in an integrative manner. Okay, it's not just the financial that gets the attention of management. It's the non-financial that supports the feedback of initiatives that you put in place. Even though the non-financials may be subjective, maybe information overloading, okay, and derived by management, okay, so they're still useful. Keep in mind that there are ways of finding out how operations are going. Pareto diagrams, cause-effect diagrams, control charts. And this week, we looked at 2 key areas of time-based competition: managing customer expectations and managing the bottleneck operations. Okay? Managing the bottleneck operations was the last thing we covered. And with that, I want to finish the balanced scorecard section of this course. So in some ways, we didn't always look at balanced scorecards every week. We actually looked at different aspects of the balanced scorecard. So with that in mind, that's why I got you to play the game earlier this semester, so you don't get too... If you played it second half of this semester, you'll be even more totally confused because you'll have information overload. By playing in the first half, you got to enjoy rather than feel the pressure of learning something within 1 week. You got to enjoy it. So I didn't give you time-based pressure for that. And you got to sponge the information in and just appreciate what the balanced scorecard is about. Then now we talk about the problems, you can better appreciate where we're coming from with the balanced scorecard. So with that in mind, that was my strategy. I hope it worked for this semester. Next week, we're going to another chapter. The week after, we don't have any teaching. No teaching, no presentations. Okay? And then the week after that, we come back for another lecture, chapter, presentations, final presentations. Are there any questions? And any questions from the floor, please? Was today clear? Yes? Okay. All right. So let's finish. Anytime you've got questions, don't hesitate to come and see me. And happy studying. Okay.
Same question. Do you have the final exam schedule?
Yes, they've already set it. It's
Yeah.
in May.
Because I know that in some of the class they have already